Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to unpack complex ideas, find those surprising links. Today we're looking at something pretty common, giving, just, the act of giving. But what if that simple action, maybe giving some food, is actually key to, well, keeping whole spiritual traditions alive, maybe even world peace? We're diving into a really profound teaching from an old source about generosity and just how far its effects can reach.
That's right. And our source for this, it's fascinating. It's an excerpt from the Patanamaddana. These are basically blessings that Buddhist monks traditionally give. And this specific one comes from a really significant sermon given way back on January 16th, 1955. It's incredibly detailed, goes deep into the philosophy, the practical side of these blessings. It's rich stuff, ancient, but still hits home today.
Okay, so our mission here is to pull out the big insights from this text. We want to explore what giving really is, according to this source. The benefits, and not just for the person receiving, apparently, and also the meaning behind these spiritual blessings, and this whole idea of interdependence that keeps a tradition going.
Yeah.
Honestly, you might look at making a simple donation completely differently after this. Let's get into it. So let's start where the source does. It jumps right in saying giving dana in Pali isn't just, being nice. It's painted as the actual lifeblood of Buddhism. Why is it put so strongly, so foundational?
Well, it's absolutely critical. The text lays it out pretty clearly. Without giving, or palkana, the monks and novices, the bhikkhu and samanera, they just can't survive. Because, they're renunciates. They don't farm, they don't run businesses, they don't earn money like most people. They rely completely on the support they get from lay followers, the upasaka and upasika. That's it. That's their entire means of existence. And that support lets them focus on their spiritual practice.
Right, that makes total sense for the monks themselves. But you mentioned the source takes it broader. It says something like, the world will live in peace and happiness also because of giving. If giving is absent, the world will suffer. Wow, that's a huge statement. How does it back that up, societally speaking?
Yeah, it is huge. And what's really insightful is the example it uses. It points to the family. Parents give to their children, right? They provide everything. And then later on, when the parents are older, the children, well, they repay that debt, you could say, by looking after their parents. The source frames this as a kind of universal human thing, this tradition of reciprocal happiness. Giving creates well-being for everyone involved. It's this cycle, starting in the family but extending outwards.
Okay, so it's not just charity. It's like a core tradition, this back-and-forth relationship that lets society work. And then, by extension, the spiritual path can flourish too. It's about continuity, mutual support.
Exactly. And building on that foundation, the text brings in this key teaching. It's a Pali verse. Basically means the giver of food bestows 5 things upon the recipient.
5 things. Okay, that's very specific. What kind of things are we talking about? Physical, spiritual, or...
It's a mix, really, quite holistic. The source details them nicely. First, age or longevity. Giving food literally helps the recipient live longer, lets them keep going. The text even gives this specific case, a monk living 7 more days because of the food he got.
7 days. Wow. Okay, what else?
Second is vancha, complexion or appearance. The idea is the recipient's body becomes, radiant, not withered, bright. Third, sukha, happiness or well-being. They feel refreshed, genuinely happy, physically, mentally.
Complexion, happiness.
Fourth is dhanbala, strength or power, just basic physical strengths from the food, right, which helps them pursue their path. And the 5th one is vibhavana, sagacity, quick-wittedness, intellect. Their mind gets sharper, clearer. They gain wisdom.
Age, appearance, happiness, strength, wisdom. That's incredibly comprehensive for the recipient. Really paints a picture of how giving food supports the whole person. But what about the giver? Does the source mention anything for them? Or is it all just selfless giving?
Now this is where it gets really interesting and maybe surprising. The text states quite clearly that the giver also gets these exact same 5 benefits back. And not just, sometime in the future, but even in this life. We're talking long life, clear complexion, comfort in all postures like being at ease, whether you're sitting, standing, walking, lying down, plus unfailing strength and sharp wisdom right up until death. It's presented as this incredibly powerful, almost immediate karmic return. What you give, you get back. Directly.
Whoa. Okay, that completely changes the perspective on giving, doesn't it? It's not just about what you part with, but what comes back to you, what you cultivate, which leads us nicely to those monastic blessings you mentioned, the patanamaddana. So monks receive food and then they give blessings. Are these just like a thank you? Or is there more weight to them?
The source really emphasizes they are not just empty words, not just politeness. They're seen as powerful affirmations. Intentional words meant to create real, tangible benefits for the donor. Think of it as an energetic return for the generosity they've just received.
Okay, so what's in these blessings then? What are they actually wishing for the donor? The source must detail that.
Oh, it does. They're quite comprehensive. First, there are wishes for the donor's own aspirations to be fulfilled. They use these beautiful metaphors like a full river filling the ocean, or wishes coming true instantly like a full moon appearing, or like a bright shining jewel. And this part explicitly includes the wish, the intention, that the merit from the offering reaches relatives or beings in the afterlife too.
Ah, interesting. Reaching the afterlife. We should come back to that. What else?
Right. Second, there are these protective wishes for the removal of all dangers, all diseases, and all obstacles. Basically, praying for long life and happiness. You might recognize the Pali phrase, sabitio vivajantu, that's part of it. And finally, there's the really profound part, havatu sabba malalo. This invokes blessings and protection from, well, all deities, but specifically through the power of the Buddha, the power of the Dhamma, the teachings, and the power of the Sangha, the monastic community. And they repeat this part 3 times for emphasis, really driving home the potency.
3 times.
Yes, and the source is clear about the purpose. These blessings are meant to empower the donor, to actively ensure their well-being, their prosperity. It's a serious spiritual act.
Okay, let's circle back to that point about offerings reaching the afterlife. You said the blessings include that intention. But how does that actually work? Is it straightforward? Can anyone who's passed on receive this merit? Seems complex.
That's a great question, and the source confirms, yeah, it is complex. It says it's not easy for the deceased to receive these offerings. It's not automatic. Not all beings can actually get the benefit.
Not easy. So who can't receive them easily?
Well, the text specifies a few categories. Those reborn in hell realms, for example, they're experiencing too much suffering to perceive or rejoice in the merit. Beings in animal realms, too, their existence is considered too coarse to connect with that kind of subtle offering. And even devas, celestial beings or humans who've been reborn, if they aren't somehow informed about the offering being made for them, or if they don't know to rejoice in it, they might miss out too. Rejoicing seems key.
Okay, so it sounds like there are quite a few limitations. Are there any exceptions? Any specific types of beings who can receive merit dedicated to them?
Yes, there is a specific group mentioned, the Paratupajivi Pretas. It translates roughly as Pretas, often called hungry ghosts, who live on what others give. These are the ones who, according to the text, can actively seek out the merit that relatives dedicate to them. A bit like how monks seek out alms. They're attuned to it. And the source even gives that historical example, the story about King Bimbisara's relatives back in the Buddhist time. They were Pretas of this type, and they did receive the merit dedicated by the king and found peace.
Fascinating. So it's possible, but specific.
It is. But then the source introduces something even more profound. It brings up the concept of Dhammakaya. And it says, if someone, presumably the one dedicating the merit, or perhaps someone helping facilitate it, has attained Dhammakaya, then transferring merit becomes, well, very easy.
Yeah, suddenly, even those suffering intensely, like in hell, can receive it. They can be informed, prompted to rejoice, and potentially even escape that suffering. This Dhammakaya is described as being able to convey merit directly to subtle bodies, dream bodies, celestial beings. It basically cuts through a lot of the usual difficulties. It's presented as a kind of advanced spiritual technology, if you will, that bypasses ordinary karmic rules for merit transfer. Dhammakaya, making merit transfer very easy. That's quite a claim. This whole discussion of giving, blessings, merit, it feels like it's building towards something even bigger. You mentioned the blessings invoking the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. The source calls this anupava, right? Power or influence. How does giving connect to these huge concepts?
Yes, exactly. Anupavava. The source outlines 3 main ones. First, Buddhamat Shakushu Threfo Buttanupavava, the power of the Buddha. This is described as, well, infinite, immeasurable. The example given is vivid. Devadatta, the Buddha's cousin who tried to harm him. The text says the earth literally swallowed him, and because of the Buddha's protective power, Devadatta couldn't even see the Buddha at that moment. That's the kind of power we're talking about.
Infinite power. Okay. What's the next one?
Second is Tannatanka Dhammipavava, the power of the Dhamma, the teachings, the cosmic law. This is the power that sustains well-being. It prevents decay, maintains things. The text explains that being in a happy state human, Deva, Brahma, is because of Dhamma being present or active. Suffering, like for Pretas or animals, happens when Dhamma is absent or obscured. So Dhamma literally upholds existence in a state of relative well-being. It's fundamental.
Makes sense. The law that keeps things running smoothly, essentially. And the third.
Third is lis tadian, buksaguch asakasinganupabava. The power of the Sangha, the community of monks and nuns. This is the power that preserves the Buddha's teachings. It ensures they don't just fade away, but actually flourish through time. The Sangha is the living vessel carrying the tradition, making sure the Dhamma remains accessible.
Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. These immense cosmic level powers. But
Yeah.
what's the link? What holds them all together? Does the source suggest a single thread connecting them? Or are they just three separate forces?
This is perhaps the most crucial insight the source offers. It brings everything together. It reveals that all three of these massive powers, Buddhangapava, Manapava, Sanganapava, they only arise and they're only maintained because of dana, because of giving.
Wait, really? Giving underpins all of them, even the Buddha's power.
That's what the text argues. It says dana is the literal fuel, the lifeblood not just for the monk's survival, but for the very existence and continuation of these spiritual powers in the world. And it gives that striking example, the Buddha himself. He only reached enlightenment after receiving that offering of 49 balls of milk rice from the laywoman Sujata. That act of giving is presented as absolutely pivotal. It demonstrates the monumental power inherent in giving. It wasn't just feeding a person, it was enabling enlightenment itself.
Wow. So Sudita's offering wasn't just lunch, it was foundational. Which means there's this profound reciprocal responsibility, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Lay followers give, and in doing so, they're not just supporting monks, they are actively maintaining Bhutanupava, Dhammanupabhava, and Sanganupava. And by maintaining those powers, they're basically protecting themselves, protecting humanity. It's a cycle that sustains everything.
Precisely. It's a deep mutualistic relationship. And the monk's side of this is just as critical. The source points out that wise monks understand this fully. They know that without the food, the requisites they receive through dhyana, they can't dedicate themselves to studying the scriptures, kaṇḍa dura, or practicing meditation, vipassana dura. And if they can't do that, then the powers of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha simply cannot be maintained and propagated. They weaken. The source even includes a stark warning. If monks become corrupt, if they lose integrity, then lay people will naturally stop giving. And if the giving stops, the religion itself will collapse.
Collapse. That's strong language.
It is. It really underscores how vital this precise, respectful, reciprocal relationship is between the lay community providing material support and the monastic community diligently practicing and preserving the teachings. The whole system depends on it.
So wrapping this up, what does this deep dive tell us? We looked at just one sermon from 1955, but it unlocks this incredibly ancient, profound view of giving. It's clearly not just a simple religious duty. It's presented as this dynamic force, almost like an engine, that sustains everything from your own personal well-being right up to these vast cosmic spiritual powers.
Exactly. The interconnectedness that this source highlights is, well, it's really quite stunning when you think about it. It suggests that our acts of generosity, even things that seem small, like offering a meal, they don't just stop there. They ripple outwards. They contribute in a very real way to the strength of spiritual power in the world, to the potential for a more benevolent society. Giving isn't just a one-way transaction. It's this powerful loop of cause and effect, benefiting everyone involved, seen and unseen.
Okay, so here's something for you, the listener, to maybe mull over, a thought to take away. If this source is right, if the very foundation of spiritual power, maybe even societal harmony, rests on this simple act of giving, what small intentional act of giving could you maybe do today? Something that might ripple out further than you expect. Think about it. The simple act of providing sustenance, just giving someone some food. According to this text, that act could literally be helping to uphold the fundamental powers of knowledge, wisdom, and protection in the world. It's a powerful thought.